The reason we're bugging you today, the reason we've got you on today, is to speak to us about fluoride. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fluoride, it's everywhere. It's in all our water for human consumption and has been for a period of time. Now, we'll go into the history of that a little bit later. Okay, we'll start at the beginning. Alrighty. I have very little information on yourself, but I have been studying the whole subject of fluoride and what they've been doing to the Irish water. Okay, and I think at this stage it would be fair to say that we are one of the only countries left in Europe that actually put fluoride into water and continue to do so on a regular basis, to huge expense to the taxpayers. Okay, enter Aisling Fitzgibbon. Okay, we got your number and your contact details from Steve Carr, who's been involved in an organisation, for the want of a better word, to try and stop this. He's lobbied several politicians, in fact, has also lobbied on Taoiseach a short time ago, in a certain hotel, and was asked to leave. I think that's a fair statement right there. We have the clip of that, although we're only going to play that. Clearly, we are a radio station, and we can only play the audio from that. However, we also have a debate from Irish television, which we will be playing for its duration in a short period of time. Anyway, back to Aisling. Aisling, how did you get involved in all this?
Well, it was 2 years ago. I was very ill myself, with depression, and I went to a nutritionist over in Devon in the UK, and it was her who told me that the water was fluoridated here, and she said it was very important that I filtered my water using reverse osmosis filter. So, she didn't really explain much upon what was actually added to the water. I just knew that fluoride was bad in the water, so I started filtering the water anyway, and thank God, I did actually recover completely.
Okay. Now, I believe your recovery period took you about 8 months or something after...
It was after about 8 months, so I did a lot of detoxing, just all healthy organic diet, lots of supplementation and the filtered water. And I was just completely a new person after all that time frame. And I realised the impact that fluoride was having just on my mental health, but also on my thinking and just my energy levels in general. So that's what kind of prompted me then to really kind of look into it. So I fundraised then for Barbara, this lady who runs the College of Natural Nutrition, to come over to Tralee last summer.
Okay.
And she was giving a talk on mental health problems, and she was saying one of the main problems here in Ireland is the fact that the water is fluoridated, which is causing, the different neurological problems like dementia and epilepsy, ADD, autism, and then with depression, because it has a massive negative impact on the thyroid function.
Sure.
So when she left anyway, she said, if you do anything, get the fluoride out of Ireland, just do whatever it takes. So we started up the campaign then. My mum is a secondary school teacher in Mercy Mount Hawk Secondary School. So we set up the campaign originally through the school. That was it was a transition year group last year, and their project was called Would You Pay for Poison? So they did public talks in Tralee. We had Walter Graham down from the north of Ireland, and he stayed with us in our house, and he really kind of opened our eyes to what was really happening and what they're putting into the water, which we thought was fluoride. We thought it was like a pharmaceutical grade fluoride, when in actual fact it's actually an industrial waste product that's coming in at the moment from Holland, and hydrofluoric acid, and this doesn't have fluoride. It has lead, aluminium, mercury, uranium, so it's just heavy metals going into our water supply.
Some of those substances that you've just mentioned there actually contained in stuff that they use for killing rodents like rats, etc.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So
that's
so it's absolutely it's insanity. And a lot of people that you mention it, so they won't believe you, until you really do start doing your own research. So with the school kids, then we went to the Dáil in February of this year, and it was a number of CDs attended the talk, but sure, they don't have any real intention of stopping it, because they listen to this expert body on fluorides and health, and they're saying that it's safe, which is a body that's been paid by the government.
A select body, no doubt at all. My understanding is fluoride was introduced for dental care a long way back, and has not been investigated correctly or properly since the instigation of fluoride into said same drinking water for human consumption. At this stage, I'd also like to point out that it is also in several of the beverages that you and I would possibly consume on your average night out, should you take a drink If it's made in Ireland, it definitely will contain fluoride. We're talking Guinness. Not just picking on Guinness here. Several other brands like Smithwick's, which is made in Kilkenny, and Heineken, etc., and all the way down. And in fact, to the research that's to my hand, in several bottled waters that you can buy over a counter, has and does contain fluoride as well.
Yeah.
I find that absolutely amazed. We have done a little bit of research. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to somebody that's actually in the know. So you believe that your mental health and your physical health and well-being has dramatically increased or got to the better from the lack of consumption of Irish water?
Yeah, completely, 100%, because I suppose, it's easy to look at research papers and things and say, it causes this problem, it causes that problem, but only when it really impacts on your health or somebody in your family. And then you see, by taking it away from that person's diet, that this person gets better, then you see firsthand. And there's a lovely man that has donated money to the campaign. He's from Dublin. His name's Peter. He'd be happy for me to mention his name.
Okay.
He got in touch with us because he watched the fluoride deception, and he identified that he had a condition it's called skeletal fluorosis.
Okay, I'm aware
which
of
is
it. Yep.
crippling skeletal fluorosis. And he said, he immediately came off the tap water and started using groundwater for drinking and cooking. And he said within 4 months he was completely better. And now he's actually running the Dublin City Marathon. I think it's on October, and he's raising money for the fluoride campaign, and he's also he's got me onto a radio show, 98 FM,
Good guys
in Dublin, just from him ringing in. They were interested then in the campaign, and he's going to run a story in a Dublin newspaper. So I think more people become aware that this is what's if you realise you have a sickness and then you come off the water and you see a dramatic improvement in your health, then you'll know without doubt that that's what is causing it. But when we were in the Dáil, the TDs, there was the independent TD, Thomas Pringle.
Okay.
He said he was head of the water services in Killybegs for years before he went into politics.
Okay.
And he was saying he's been condemning the use of fluoride for many years, but he says, nobody listens. So he said you could be campaigning for ages. So he said the main thing in his eyes would be a legal challenge against bodily integrity is being violated, informed consent, and mass medication with an untested chemical.
Sure.
So that's why after that, then that's what we set ourselves out, to go down that route. So I have instructed a legal team anyway, and they're looking into the framework now of what actions will be taken against the Irish government for their policy of water fluoridation.
And how are you going to finance this, Aisling?
The solicitor and the barrister, and there's another, it's two solicitors and a barrister, they're all working pro bono.
Okay, fair play. I mean, again,
but they are, we have to cover basic expenses for them, which won't cost too much. But what we're doing, we've set up this website, thegirlagainstfluoride.com, and we're just going to try and raise funds through that, and we'll be doing different publicity stunts around the country just to raise public awareness, because before we do go to court, it's so important that we have the backing of the public behind us so that this case doesn't go ignored. Now,
to the best of my knowledge, somebody did take the state to court on this task a couple of years back, I think back in the 70s, maybe 80s, and the case, they lost the case. And I believe a short time later on the demise of somebody, I'm not armed with the name, so therefore I don't deem it fit to name the person from the top of my head. Feel free to jump in if you do know the name. You have my permission to do so. Short time thereafter kind of recanted and said, well, I kind of made a bad decision on that one, and maybe fluoride should not be in the water, and that is on public record somewhere, no doubt. That case was well, you see, the water fluoridation policy was being brought out in 1960. It was under the Health Act of 1960, but it actually wasn't introduced to the water until 1964, because it was Gladys Ryan who took the case. Exactly.
And it was fighting it on human rights, not to be mass medicated, but the judge who ruled on it wasn't actually, it was ruled against by the judge because it was that person, that person could have easily been paid off to allow that to go forward, because a huge amount of money is involved with this.
Ashley, I would imagine that you have a GP, and I mean, when you brought this to the attention of your own general practitioner, I mean, what did he or she have to say?
Well, after I went, with my depression and things, I was being treated by a GP and a psychiatrist in Tralee for about 4.5 years. And never once did they mention anything about the water, nothing. It was just take medication and things like that.